It's time to rumble! It's time for the greatest Royal Rumble, where participants include Daniel Bryan, Braun Strowman, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, Chris Jericho, Mark Henry, Rey Mysterio, Kevin Owens, Elias, The Great Khali, Bobby Roode, Baron Corbin, Big E, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Apollo Crews, Shelton Benjamin, Sin Cara, Chad Gable, Goldust, Titus O'Neil, Mojo Rawley, Dolph Ziggler, Big Show, and 26 other guys that haven't been listed because they're expecting 50 participants in the greatest Royal Rumble. Plus, you'll see John Cena, Triple H, The Undertaker taking on Rusev in the casket match. Universal Champion Brock Lesnar defends the title against Roman Reigns in a steel cage match. For the WWE Championship, AJ Styles goes one-on-one with Shinsuke Nakamura. In a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, The Miz, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins will do battle. Jinder Mahal challenges Jeff Hardy for the United States Championship. The Bar of Sheamus and Cesaro challenge Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt for the Raw Tag Team titles. The Bludgeon Brothers and the Usos battle out for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. And for the Cruiserweight Championship, Cedric Alexander defends against Kalisto. It's time to rumble. It's time for the greatest Royal Rumble from Saudi Arabia.
Welcome to the JM Report. I am GoodOlJM, coming to you from the CSB Studios in Tampa, Florida, the birthplace of pro wrestling. Now, I just want to point out real quick, as I'm recording this session, the greatest Royal Rumble is going on as I speak. I made a bit of a a goof on my part, where I was trying to schedule around the greatest Royal Rumble so I can be at home watching and avoid this conflict with my studio time. But that was my mistake. I wanted to do this yesterday on a Thursday and record my session and still head out that later on that night to catch the premiere of Avengers Infinity War. Great movie, by the way. No spoilers, but everyone needs to go see this. And still have time to basically stay home, sacrifice a day at the gym, and watch the nearly 3-4 hour event. It's ongoing right now as I speak. We have the Usos and the Bludgeon Brothers going against the they're facing each other. The Bludgeon Brothers are facing against the Uso Brothers for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. But it wouldn't make sense to have an on-air live report play-by-play. I mean, I could have, I guess, but I don't think I would have had enough studio time to do so. But instead, I'm just going to have to wait to next episode of the JM Report and share the results. If anything, you can follow me across social media at GoodOlJM, Facebook.com/GoodOlJM, on Instagram, YouTube channel, obviously, Twitter, and you can keep up with me there as I give out the results once the event is over. And I'll post some video highlights and some pictures that were available of today's greatest Royal Rumble. I did catch the opening kickoff show. It was just about sundown. There's about a 7-hour difference between here and Saudi Arabia, and I got to say the stadium was filling in. A good section off to the side. It's similar to Madison Square Garden for those who are familiar, where they set up the staging on one side of the arena and seats that will probably be obstructed seating areas to see the ring was tarped off, as they say. They will use these giant tarps to cover up the seats Also, they use pyro, also to avoid any future problems or issues. As many of you may or may not remember, there were issues at WrestleMania 24. Some of the pyros that went off towards the end of the show flew into the audience, and some people got injured. Nothing severely, but it led many to believe as well that one of the reasons why Citrus Bowl ended up being renovated. It was in the plans anyway, but I think that incident sped it up, and WWE unfortunately was caught up in the middle. I don't believe there were any lawsuits that I can remember, just unfortunate accidents, and hopefully the ones that were injured had maybe a few tickets given to attend WWE live events, or if they were fortunate enough to return to Citrus Bowl to watch last year's Mania. But again, no serious injuries from that date, but still could have been worse, but thankfully it was not. So I'll get into a bit of a news here. Bit of a slow week this week. I guess all eyes and attention is on the Greatest Royal Rumble, as pretty much after Raw and SmackDown this week, the entire roster that was going to participate just hopped on a giant plane, and first class, by the way, and flew out to Saudi Arabia. And some of the pictures that these guys posted up, from Chris Jericho to the New Day, they were spoiled. Even the King, Jerry Lawler, and Jim Ross, all posting pictures of their flight. And man, I thought the airlines that forgot the name of it, but basically they fly in and out of Japan and China specifically, and those first class seats, they're no joke. They're like mini living rooms, where reclining seats, they got like a sliding door, for privacy, and they got little cabinets inside, and they're like little cubicles at an office or an office booth, and they got little flat screen TVs, and it's like literally like a little mini living room, and all that's missing is a fridge. I don't remember seeing a fridge in any of the pictures, but it's quite astounding to see everyone getting the first class treatment. I'm not sure who flipped the bill on that one, whether it's Vince or anyone from Saudi Arabia's side, because story goes that this is something that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia wanted to have, and they reached out to WWE, and they made it happen. And thus we have the Greatest Royal Rumble going on with 50 participants, 7 championship matches, and plus John Cena taking on Triple H, which opened up the event. But again, I'll have the results all for you next week on the next episode of the JM Report. A bit of sad news, well, actually bad news, I should rephrase. Big Van Vader, who recently had successful open heart surgery, was re-hospitalized again last Thursday with pneumonia and had trouble breathing. All of this coming during the aftermath of his open heart surgery. Possible side effect, although that was never confirmed, but he was able to tweet out earlier today, matter of fact, on his at It's Vader Time Twitter handler, and he was answering a fan's question from Matt Anderson, and he says, "You and me, Matt, and I woke literally screaming in pain. Was overwhelming. It was nearly 7 hours of surgery. My chest bone is literally sawed in half. So sounds like they had to go back in there. Again, no specifics were presented, but possible complications. This is why I'm not a doctor, folks. I can assume what happened, and there may have been complications or unexpected aftermath results of what came of the open heart surgery, which is not always easy. Arnold Schwarzenegger a few weeks ago, if you remember, had the same an emergency open heart surgery, and he came out of it pretty well. Hopefully there will be no side effects for him, but thoughts and prayers and get well wishes go out to Big Van Vader. He's a very kind, gentle man, a gentle giant, if you will. He's an all-around great guy. PW Insider reported that one of WWE's cameramen, Donald Anderson, no relation to Matt, has filed suit against WWE and Titus O'Neil in the state of Florida after an alleged incident that occurred back in 2015 during a episode of one of the WWE Network's programming swerved. Yeah, that's their, I guess, their jackass version of their TV show where practical jokes are played on each other's ribs. You hear stories about who ever done the greatest ribs backstage or rib. They don't call it rib or ribs; they just call it swerved. I wonder where that word came from. And Anderson originally tried to file suit in the state of California, but somehow was successful to do it in Florida when it transitioned, the lawsuit that is. And now Anderson claimed that O'Neill got extremely angry when he was shocked by the WWE superstar Paige with an electroshock stick and proceeded to kick out the cameraman and injured his hand in the process. So in other words, a shock stick was used on Paige. And while filming, the cameraman, that is Donald Anderson, Titus O'Neill was surprised of the incident and reacted by pushing out the cameraman and kicked at him, injuring his hand. So he got injured in the process, he being Anderson. And the reports go on to say that Anderson is seeking about $15,000 worth of damages and any other damages that went with it. I would assume that includes medical bills and therapy of any kind, physical therapy. And now it all comes down to the Pasco County in Florida, whether the lawsuit is worthy enough to move forward from there. And if it does, yeah, I should probably lower my my volume here, because in the background I do have playing the Greatest Royal Rumble in case some breaking news occurs, then I can just jump right into it. So that's going on. So good luck with Donald Anderson with this lawsuit. I mean, 50 grand is not asking for much from WWE, but to kick one of your cameramen because you were overwhelmed or shocked, no pun intended, because someone was poked with an electrical stick. In this case, it was Paige, unfortunately. I didn't follow Swerve at all because I just thought it was, a waste of time because, yeah, we hear stories and we read about them. And sometimes when it's a social media live video going on, you do sometimes catch these things in the background, or it happens as they're rolling cameras. But I don't know. With the WWE Network claiming to have broken 2 million subscribers not too long ago, and award-winning network, I still yet to hear exactly what awards they've won, but they claim they win awards. But point being, shows like Swerve, eventually, they'll lead to trouble. They do show the downtime of these superstars when obviously they're not in the ring, when they're not doing charity work or making public appearances. There are still human beings. They do want to catch a good movie or, sit in for a dinner and hang out with their friends. And in most cases, their friends are the ones they work with, the other wrestlers. And yeah, who hasn't pulled a prank or make a joke when they're hanging around with a group of anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe more people in a group, and you sometimes record it. You sometimes happen, especially nowadays, everyone has a smart device. But I don't want to say Titus should have known better, or he reacted, I should say, inappropriately, towards the cameraman. And he was just doing his job. He was just trying to catch reactions, trying to catch expressions, the emotions. And it's a tough gig when you're placed in that position. And, similar to, the cameramen who follow cops literally and record for a TV show named Cops. They do get caught in, no pun intended, in the crossfire, and people, not on a regular, but they get hurt, they get injured. And in this case, whether the cameraman wasn't listening, if Anderson wasn't listening to Titus O'Neill's order to get out or move away from Paige, that he had to get rough with him. Yeah, I don't think it was necessary. Again, the man was just doing his job. Anderson, Titus O'Neill, in my opinion, might have overreacted, and to kick away and injure a man's hand, allegedly, it's inexcusable. So hopefully this works out for everyone. And who knows if this cameraman would even go on to work with WWE, because anyone that files suit against WWE, whether you're an employee or not, former employee or future employee, things don't always work out for the better for everyone. But you never know what happens. Never say never, right? Zack Ryder, after it was announced that he would be drafted to Raw during the draft, that's what I'm calling. I'm sticking to it. Yeah, he unfortunately suffered a knee injury during a main event taping in a match with Mike Kanellis, and unfortunately is missing out at the Greatest Royal Rumble, as he was expected to, make his appearance just like everyone else, and he was really hyped about it. He's one of the young ones that wanted to really go out there and put on a great show and be part of the 50-man Royal Rumble, but unfortunately he missed out. He would later on in the week take to Twitter and would update everyone saying that there was no torn ACL or MCL, no calf muscle strain, just that he won't need surgery is what he was trying to say, and that's great news. Probably just a little bump and bruise, the severe kind, enough where you think you're going to need surgery for. So maybe some swelling. He didn't take any pictures and posted it on social media, but it was bad enough to keep him out of the Rumble, that's for sure. And without taking any risks, they took the MRIs, and thankfully all came back negative for him. So hopefully he'll have a speedy recovery and be back soon on Raw. Enzo Amore. There's a name I haven't heard of in a while. Enzo Amore, he's been off social media. He's had his attorney, for the most part, speak on his behalf on anything in relations to what occurred back in October of 2017, and I'll get to that in a second. But Enzo posted for the first time, and it wasn't a picture of himself. As many of you know, he's a tremendous fan of Jordans, the sneaker line of Jordans, and wow, he has quite a collection, and those things aren't cheap. And there were a few network bits where the camera people would follow him around, and he walked into a sneaker store and he'll buy 2 or 3 pairs at a time. It was incredible. But in this particular case, Enzo did what old schoolers would do, and anyone from New York or Los Angeles might relate to this, where you take a pair of sneakers and you throw them over the phone lines that go across one pole to another over the sidewalks or electrical lines, and you just hang them there. I never got it, but I think I knew one person that did that one time, and it didn't matter because the city eventually took down those poles and sneakers were never seen again. But he ended up throwing a pair of sneakers, a pair of Jordans, I should say, in his hometown of New Jersey. And he texted out, "It's been real." Take that with a grain of salt, because that could mean anything, even though he's still under investigation from the time of this recording. And this was brought online during several viral videos of his accuser. And in response, at the time, WWE fired Enzo Amore because he kept this from them, even while he was under investigation back then. And it's amazing how something like this took as long as it did to get back to WWE. I guess because it wasn't hashtagged or, mention Enzo specifically in the texting portion of it. I'm sure in the video, because I only seen one, but the accuser named Enzo by his real name, and didn't really escalate till weeks after the fact. And this was after Enzo won the Cruiserweight Championship, shortly after Big Cass went down with an injury, who actually returned a week ago, ironically. So I hope things work out for Enzo. It's not a good look. It really isn't. And there've been a lot of shoot interviews recently, and when the subject came up, Enzo was never really painted with a good brush, if you know what I mean. It just doesn't look good. A lot of people thought he was, for lack of a better term, fake. That he talks a big fight but doesn't really back it up. He just talks his way out of stuff. He talks his way into situations, and all he does is talk and talk. Probably one of the reasons why he got a spot in NXT, because part of the shtick, if you will, is promos. And Enzo was great at promos. The last few times we did see him on TV, whether it was Raw or SmackDown, it just went longer than it needed to, and completely unnecessary at times. But hopefully he'll land on his feet somewhere somehow, and he can get past this. But this is something that's going to land in the same category, say, with what happened to Hulk Hogan, even though it was a good ending for him, or happy ending. That's a bad choice of words. And among other people that were put in that spotlight, where it prevents you from keep going, in this case with WWE, or maybe giving time off to fix whatever issues you've had, and then make a great comeback later on, and all's forgiven. In the case of Hulk Hogan, it might take a few years, even though there have been talks a few weeks ago. But I think that was more in relations for the Andre the Giant documentary, because ever since then, talks have been faded out, or there was nothing to report on that front because nothing's happened. And speaking of one that had her issues with WWE, fired and rehired after an alleged shoplifting issue, Emma, who now goes by her real name, Tenille Dashwood, but for the sake of, we'll call her Emma. Emma's taking time off to heal a shoulder injury that her doctor suggested to prevent any further seriousness to the injury. And after a few examinations, all results came back negative, but she was still suggested by her doctors, who then went back to Northeast Wrestling and Remix Pro Wrestling last weekend and advised them that Emma's not going to be attending or participating in any physical matches. But she did attend as a commentator, so she still fulfilled her commitments and appeared. And of course, you try not to let the fans down, even though you weren't, in her case, you weren't going to be in the ring, but at least your presence was felt, and you could provide commentary. So Emma will be taking a few days off. She tweeted back on Tuesday that she was feeling better, but she's going to take her doctor's advice and continue with the time off for as long as it takes. I believe she has a follow-up appointment in the coming days, so she's going to rest for the time being and recover. WWE has their annual European tour coming up, and they have already announced and pushing really hard for the in-ring debut of Ronda Rousey. I mean, yeah, she had a debut back in Mania, but we're talking about a one-on-one match. And as we saw this past Monday night on Raw, looks like her feud would begin with Mickie James, and that will be her opponent during these European tours. And these will not be televised, but there will be a lot of smart devices recording, and probably be posted on social media. I was actually asked one time by a colleague of mine from LolaLosFilms.com, and asked me what I thought of Ronda from a debut match, and honestly, I thought it was pretty good. I would have made it well known as far as all the spots that involve Stephanie and the armbar. I think Stephanie knew way too much counters or preventions from having Ronda for completing the armbar hold. But besides that, if Ronda can work a little more on her timing, it's on camera. It's been seen on Raw. It's been seen at Mania. She about anywhere from half a step to a whole step off. It's not always her fault because it takes two to tango. If you go back to the spot where Stephanie back suplexes Ronda through a table in a go-home show on Raw before Mania, it was almost as if Stephanie was looking for her placement, and Ronda is just holding her arm up on the right side and basically saying, pick me from this side. Okay, ready, now, set, go. And this is why you rehearse. This is why you practice during the day, or whatever time leading up to a specific moment like Raw. But if anything, if Ronda works on her timing a little more, I think she'll be fine. I think she takes bumps really well. I think her selling is pretty good, and it's just her timing. I don't know what you call that. I think it's supposed to be some kind of exploder suplex or what it is, but it's basically similar to Taz's arm arm and head suplex maneuver, but she hooks up the leg, or like how Finn Balor sometimes does that I'm sorry, not Finn Balor. Sami Zayn does that into the corner, but she makes her opponents land face first, not on the back. They don't do a full rotation. It's not a too convincing maneuver, and the impact is kind of dull. I wouldn't suggest that as part of her move set, but it is what it is. If she can find a way to perfect it, maybe she'd be great. But for now, I think her timing needs to be worked on. Boom Studios is working on a graphic novel called WWE Undertaker. It will be written by Chad Dennis, and he'll be sharing on how special of a character The Undertaker is and can still be moving forward, and is due out in October. Now, there have been books before written about The Undertaker, mostly comics, but I think this particular one is going to be more in depth as far as how the character Undertaker came to be and his journey throughout the years. And didn't make mention if I guess the quote unquote ending of his career back in Mania 34. But if it's anything, well, as he says here, it will be based on the character and the specials, or what made The Undertaker special of a character and beyond. Then there'll probably be some personal stories, I would assume. But if it's being presented as a graphic novel, I mean, I'm guessing that there's going to be a fine line between reality and fiction in relations to The Undertaker, because if you think about it, The Undertaker doesn't really have social media, as far as I know. He has that official WWE Facebook page, but he doesn't run his own Facebook page. He doesn't go on there and make quotation or comments such as, Rusev is going to get buried this Sunday at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Like, no. Keeps it short and simple. Rest in peace, Rusev. And that's it. You move on. Obviously, they have handlers who go on these individual sites and they post for them. Honestly, I dislike that. I don't want anyone ever posting on my behalf, especially if it doesn't sound like me. Don't post it. Or don't pretend to be me and you're going to post it anyway. I'm going to just delete it. Don't do that. But I look forward to this graphic novel. It's been a while since I've seen one of these books based on a WWE character. And, I just might pick it up. It's out due this October. Mike Johnson reported about Neville from WP Insider. PW Insider. In regards to Neville's current status with the WWE, in so many words, he's basically hanging on at home. And he's figuring out either how to get out of his contract or figuring out how to finish out the remaining time of his contract with WWE. No mention of whether or not he's still getting paid. I would assume so. There wasn't any breach of contract that I'm aware of, because you're staying at home and you're not doing anything on television or anything behind the scenes. You won't get a salary out of it. I know of many wrestlers many a times who had disagreements. They'll stay home and they'll have nothing to do for them, or creative won't have anything for them, and they sell out the remainder of their contract, whether it's a few months, the rest of the year. But no indication of whether or not Neville's still getting any kind of salary out of this. Obviously, he's not on WWE television, so technically speaking, he could do indies even while under contract, as long as it doesn't conflict with WWE's schedule. But he's not on TV right now. But at least make appearances. At most, if he does wrestle for another independent company, there may be some issues there. So it's kind of a gray area. I would try to avoid that personally, but hopefully for his sake, he is still getting some kind of income. Otherwise, whatever decision he's trying to make, hope he makes it quick. And that was a great talent. I hope they don't lose him. I think he can maybe help revamp the 205 Live now post Enzo Amore era, and see what happens. A bit of an update of a story I mentioned last time regarding one Kathleen Alexander filing suit against WWE and 2K Games. Her side of the story is that she designed all of her tattoos on Randy Orton's arms, back, shoulders. All of them were designed by her. and that she even went as far to, back in 2009. Let me get this out the way first. Back in 2009, she reached out to WWE and they offered $450, basically as compensation. Like, okay, but they're still appearing in video games, and they haven't got my permission. They never reached out to me. So she turned down the $450, and Alexander is claiming that by recreating the tattoos in the video games, her rights of her designs are being infringed upon. In regard of the obvious question of whether or not this has anything to do with Randy Orton, if he has any rights to the designs or gave permission, Anderson alleges that the lawsuit, Mr. Orton, does not have any ownership in the copyrights here within, and has no authority to and do not grant permission. And the defendants, to commit the acts complain to the complainant. The defendants complain. Yeah, the defendants commit that the acts are complained upon in the suit. So Orton is not named at all. Just the fact that he's the walking artwork, unfortunately. So his name will be brought up a lot because he's the one carrying around the tattoos on his body. And even though he was not named as a defendant in a lawsuit, Anderson requests a jury trial and is seeking the court to rule that the tattoos of her copyrighted work and the defendants infringed against her. And they want the court to rule that she's owed damages. I think it's fair, especially if it's brought up years earlier. Hell, I think in 2009, 2K Sports wasn't even part of the WWE games yet. That was still under THQ's banner before they went under. So basically, THQ, they dust their hands clean on this one, and it's 2K Games' responsibility now. Now, it's unfortunate because when something like this happens, and I guess I can bring up when Vince bought out WCW, that even though he bought the company, that doesn't necessarily mean he also bought the any lawsuits at the time. I don't think there were any, or any money that was owed to other companies, such as other contracts that weren't with wrestlers. Like say, if Master P was still owed money by WCW, he doesn't have to go to Vince for that. He'll have to go straight back to Time Warner and straighten that out in case he was owed money, which I think he was. I'm not sure. And this is very similar. Only in this case it involves an artist's design, and this is how you protect your property, folks. If you came up with an idea, whether it's a tattoo design or even a movie script, you want to make sure your name is on it, and to better protect yourself, get the rights to it. Make sure you own the rights to what you created, and that someone acknowledges it, and there's some kind of signature or a legal document that proves it. And anyone else outside of your circle tries to use it without your permission, then yeah, you got a full-clad lawsuit there. You can try to give warnings and say, hey, if you do this again, I will sue you. But if they persist, then by all rights, you have all facts in the world to go ahead and file a lawsuit and get your damages back, get what's owed to you, and life can go on. Hopefully, there's a lesson here. I'll be damned if WWE and 2K Games learn it, but definitely something needs to be learned from this moving forward. Even if it's a specific tattoo of a picture of your newborn baby. Yeah, I mean, who owns the rights to your face, to your baby's face, based on the picture? But because it was created, the tattoo that is, by a designer, they could pull that tactic and then have every right to, but the baby's picture is not being exploited on TV every week and making T-shirts out of it. I should know because I still own a RKO T-shirt in the letters of the red NWO, and the back of the shirt has Randy's back tattoo. I don't know if that was part or ever dealt as far as compensation for Catherine Alexander, but In her case, I hope she was, but this is still ongoing and is still pending as of this recording. Ring of Honor will be heading out to West Palm Beach, Florida tonight and tomorrow night. Matter of fact, they got huge lineups of back-to-back shows. Tonight, you have ROH champion Dalton Castle versus Flip Gordon, Cody versus Punishment Martinez, Kenny King versus Marty Scurll, Scorpio Sky takes on Jay Lethal, The Kingdom versus Adam Page and the Young Bucks. For the ROH Tag Team Championships, the Briscoes defend against the Motor City Machine Guns. The Dogs versus Coast to Coast versus Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels versus Ciela's Young and Beer City Bruiser, Also, adding on to tonight's show will be Kelly Kevin. I'm sorry, I almost said Kevin Kelly. Kelly Klein will go one-on-one with Pizarro. I'm pretty sure I botched that name. I apologize. Shane Taylor takes on Josh Woods, and special appearances by Cheeseburger and Bully Ray. Yes, Cheeseburger will make an appearance. And then on Saturday, April 28th, over at Lakeland, Florida, ROH returns, featuring the Bullet Club taking on the ROH theme, including ROH champion Dalton Castle and ROH TV champion Ciela's Young taking on ROH Tag Team Champions, the Briscoes, with Cody and Marty Scurll and the Young Bucks. That's quite a main event. Punishment Martinez takes on Adam Page, Coast to Coast versus Motor City Machine Guns, Jay Lethal versus Josh Woods. The Kingdom take on Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. Shane Taylor versus Matt Taven versus Beer City Bruiser versus Kenny King. Flip Gordon versus Scorpio Sky. Also appearing once again will be Bully Ray, the Dogs, and the Women of Honor, and more action and many more to be announced. So be sure to head over to ROH.com for more tickets and for ticket information and more information as well for future events upcoming. Congratulations are in order for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as he welcomed to the world Tiana Gia Johnson, born on the 23rd. Many in Hollywood as well took to social media to congratulate once again Dwayne Johnson. Beautiful baby girl. So as busy as the man sounds and appears to be, he still makes time to make babies. This is his second child, I believe, with his girlfriend, Lauren. So, yeah, many congratulations and mazel tovs and all that sweet stuff across the board. Good job there. This past Monday night on Raw, there was a bit of an awkward moment during the women's 10-women tag match. And I'm sure many of you will know where I'm going with this. While making her entrance, Bayley, being the hugger, she's worn T-shirts say she's a hugger or hug life. And the audience would have these signs say hugging section. And Bayley's mostly known to reach out and hug the young audience, the little kids, which is great. Keeping close with the audience. In her case, physically close with the audience, and putting smile on faces, showing everyone a good time. But there was one particular case. She was off to the side, just off the rampway. She's hugging this little girl, and who I can only assume is the father. So before and during the hug to the little girl that Bayley was doing, this guy was already standing next to the girl, open arms, and try to reach out to get a hug from Bayley. And Bayley, I guess, realized it beforehand and didn't bother and just basically brushed the guy away and said, no. You could read her lips and saying, no, it was very awkward. And I would imagine uncomfortable and embarrassing for the guy, but who knows what Bayley's at the time's motivation was. She's hugged adults before, so this is nothing. Actually, this is a little bit surprising. To my knowledge, it's the first time she denied anyone to get a hug. I mean, who wouldn't want to get a hug from Bayley? I mean, she's the hugger. Surprised. I mean, she has a not flaming, but inflatable tube man. Just waiting for her to come out with a giant teddy bear one day. But this was extremely awkward, and Bayley will later on go to Twitter, and after a fan asked, how awkward that was, what was going on, and her response was, "I'm sorry, I don't laugh at the right times. Is this what it feels like with my wings clipped? I'm awkward and nervous." The wings clipped part of the comment is the fan asking, you pretty much clipped that fan's wings. Are you suggesting this fan was an angel, or does Bayley have wings as part of her logo? I mean, it was just a weird comment to make from the fan, but at least she acknowledges and she apologized for it. I don't think she didn't have to. I mean, she's not obligated. She's not forced to do these things. But being part of a gimmick, it was definitely an awkward moment. But it didn't last long. It didn't take away from the main event. It's just it was obvious at the moment, and there were people talking about it on social media. But no, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, what can you do? Sometimes you're reaching out to wrestlers that they want to high five, and they ignore you or they keep walking. In some cases, like a Brock Lesnar, who just flat out ignored you, just walked by and you just left there with your hand hanging in the air. But in all fairness, when he defeated Goldberg at WrestleMania for the title, I guess he was overwhelmed with excitement, or maybe it was one of his friends. But there was one guy ringside after he left the ring. And Brock did acknowledge the guy to high five him, and I was like, okay, that's something Brock rarely does. So either he was that happy, or it was just one of Brock's friends, and was just part of the celebration. But again, it's been a slow week for WWE. Not much else going on in the wrestling world, as I mentioned before, as I'm making this recording. The Greatest Royal Rumble is happening as I speak, and I'll just check real quick here. It's obviously still ongoing. The ladder match just concluded. I'm not going to make any. Again, I'm not going to make any play-by-plays here. The Great Khali is in town. He'll be part of the Greatest Royal Rumble. So was Rey Mysterio. That was confirmed earlier today. Jim Ross, who I thought was going to be part of the commentating team, is not. It's the team of Cole, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxton for some reason. But oh well. But here's a bit of good news for Hulk Hogan. I mentioned him earlier. He's going to be inducted into the Boys and Girls Club of America Anomaly Hall of Fame. Yeah, try saying that 3 times fast. This comes out of the offices of San Diego of the Boys and Girls Club, and they will induct 9 new members in total, including Hulk Hogan. The ceremony will be hosted by Emmy and Tony Award-winning actor Courtney Vance, and will honor the new members who have gone from their Boys and Girls Club to make major contributions of their professions, from sports to entertainment to the military and more. So okay, it's a huge. This sounds like a great, huge honor for anyone who's inducted into the Hall of Fame. So among others, Emmy Award-winning journalist Ed Arnold will be inducted. The Department of Defense Senior Program Analysis for Community and Family Policies will be Candace Bird. Physician of the Orlando Magic executive Becky Boner will be inducted, and 2-time NBA champion Matt Bonner as well, and NFL Hall of Famer Tyrell Davis, globally multi-platinum recording artist Jason DeLiro. That's interesting. U.S. Army Lieutenant General Leslie Smith will be inducted. along with Olympic gold medalist and snowboarder Shaun White, and of course, 12-time world champion Hulk Hogan, will all be inducted into the Boys and Girls Club of America Hall of Fame. This is quite a feat for Hogan. Like I said before, he's living a good life right now. He won a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Gawker for invasion of privacy, among other things, though not in the clear as of yet as far as returning to WWE. But still, I mean, does he deserve a second chance in relations to that particular incident? I believe so. I believe so, and I don't know if all will be forgiven, but if he does the right thing as far as apologizing to whoever he has to apologize, whether it's in public, whether it's privately, in person. But yeah, I mean, obviously the Boys and Girls Club of America. Not that they ignored it, not that they put it aside. Obviously, they're aware of this after the fact, but they're not holding it against them, especially to be considered to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, well, I guess congratulations are in order to Hulk Hogan and everyone else that I've made mention of. No date as far as when the ceremony would take place, but they are offering more information at the Boys and Girls Club of America website, bjca.org. You can get all your information there as far as when and where their Hall of Fame ceremony will occur. So once again, congratulations to Hulk Hogan. And yeah, give the guy one more chance, I say, and let him finish off his career properly. So that will about wrap it up here. I was hoping to have a little more, but again, it's been a slow week. I guess real quick, my experience last night with the Avengers Infinity War movie. No spoilers. Don't worry about it. No spoilers. But I got to say, it was definitely action-packed. It was definitely emotional. It did answer a few questions that the fans have been wondering for the past few years. Ever since, I would say, around Captain America, the first Avenger movie, and definitely leads into future movies that have already been announced. Beyond the next couple of movies, which will be Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel. Beyond that will be the next phase, if you will. And nothing's been announced as of yet, but who's to say that might be some work in the process when and how the Disney and Fox merger happens to acquire the rights to these characters that Marvel used to own, at least the movie rights to these characters, such as X-Men and the Fantastic Four and everyone else. But for now, everyone's just unaware of what's going to happen, or the ink hasn't even printed, meaning these contracts, although some were signed to move forward with the process, but as far as acquiring any other kind of rights, that's still up in the air. And I know a lot of fans are getting anxious and excited, but you're just going to have to wait and see what happens. And the second part of this Infinity War movie, I believe, is already in the can. It was filmed back to back, and it won't be released until a year from now. So as far as if you go see the Infinity War anytime soon from this recording, and you remember my words here, yeah, pretty much what you see and you wonder what's going to happen next, you have to wait a whole year unless somebody leaks it, and I hope they don't, because I don't leak any spoilers. Thanos demands your silence. And overall, it was a great experience. I was fortunate enough to catch the early premiere, what AMC Theaters call the Fan Night, and they passed out these limited edition collectible coins On one side, you have the Avengers logo, and on the other, you have the Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones in it. And yeah, I was very fortunate to pick up this I guess piece of Hollywood history, and it always comes full circle for me personally, because I was very, very lucky when the first Avengers movie came out. That was 2012. Facebook, the official Facebook page of the Avengers, they put out a I guess what they call it. What they put out a memo, and if you responded, if first you had to like the comment and respond within a certain time frame, you will be selected to win a pair of tickets to see the Avengers movie an entire month before its official release date. So April of that year, myself, my cousin, and about maybe 150 other people were fortunate enough to see the first ever Avengers movie on IMAX. And of course, we had to sacrifice our cell phones. They collected our cell phones in the beginning. Of course, we got them back at the end. But even then, it was so surreal for me. And to come full circle now to pick up this collective coin from Infinity War, which, it led to this. I mean, the story is not completely told yet, but still, it's a highly anticipated movie, and I feel complete, so to speak, even though I don't know what's going to happen in the second movie, or if you're keeping track of, Avengers 4. But we'll see. I cannot recommend it enough. I can't wait for this to come out in its box set, which I'm collecting, and yeah, have my own cinematic universe at home and probably binge watch it one weekend from Friday night till Sunday night. So that'll do it for me here. Good old JM. Thank you for joining, and thank you for listening. You can always leave a comment. You can like what you hear. Subscribe to all my social media networks across the board. If there's anything you want to suggest to cover here, any questions, feel free to send them at IAmGoodOlJM@gmail.com. And I respond in a very, very timely manner, if not sooner, as soon as possible. I'll get back to you and reply, and probably share your questions here on air. So again, thank you to everyone. Thank you for CSB Studios for allowing